All right, so I just wanted to show you the before. Probably eventually be doing an after.
What Disney World land do you live in?
Almost there. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We thought that since we're basically finished with the exterior of the camper now, we might talk a little bit about the things that worked and the things that maybe didn't work so well and I might do differently on the next camper that I work on. So first up, a little refresher on what we've been working on. It's a 1968 Playmore Model 140. It's a 14-foot long camper from tongue to bumper. And I looked it up originally. They weigh about 1,400 pounds, so pretty lightweight camper, really easy to tow. Yeah, we bought it for $600. Can you believe it? Seems like the price on these have gone up and up and up, even on ones that are the same condition that we bought here. But yeah, with that said, let's talk about the order that we attacked this rebuild, and in that order, things that we would consider doing a little differently. All right, so the very first thing we did on our rebuild was we demolished the interior. And that's where a lot of people start. It's kind of a fun process because you get to yank a bunch of stuff out and then see how much damage there actually is in there. And, you know, unfortunately, the proper way to do these things is to start by taking the skin off the exterior and working your way back in that way. They're built from the frame, and then the cabinetry's put in, and then the walls, and then the roof, and everything else. So you do the opposite of that. And honestly, that interior also helps to kind of support the walls and hold them in place. So if you're doing a complete rebuild, leaving that cabinetry in place while you do the rebuild can be advantageous to figuring out how to get things exactly back where they're supposed to be. So to do it again, we'd skip demolishing the interior and we would go straight to taking apart the exterior. So if you're going to go at it from the exterior by taking the skin off, first thing you have to do is take everything off of the skin that is holding it to the frame. So all the windows have to come out, the lights have to come off. In a lot of cases it's called J-rail. In our case, most places call it roof rail. So all that stuff has to come off, and then you can start taking the skin off. And the skin is usually put on from the bottom to the top, so you start at the bottom, work your way to the top. As far as taking it apart in that way, there's not much I would do differently. We did leave the skin attached to the walls as we were taking them apart because we thought that that would kind of help hold things together and we could rebuild it more accurately that way. Well, if we had left the interior to hold the walls together, we could have taken the skin off without having to worry about everything falling apart. If you remember, there wasn't much left to the driver's side in any regard, so you know, if I were doing this differently, which I'll probably be doing it differently at some point in the future, I would start by taking the skin off and then rebuilding the walls by attaching wood directly to the framing that currently exists. That way you can make it the exact right size, you can build it in place, you can know that it's going to match exactly, and then unscrew that from the wall, and there you go. You've got your walls built. The way we did it worked okay. but I think this way would be better and this way would be quicker, and I've seen other people do this, so if I can find the picture of someone else doing it, I will insert it into the video. So once we had the walls off, we were able to look at the decking and start to pull that up and get to the frame. The frame was really pretty easy to work on. You know, we just cleaned it up, painted it, and that was about it. What I would probably do differently, because I was kind of in a hurry to move forward with it at that point, I would consider adding things like leveling jacks that need to be attached to the frame, or if you were thinking about doing something like replacing your axle. Our axle seemed to be in pretty good shape in the springs, so I left it. I'm a little worried that from some of the things that I've read online that the bearings might be really difficult to replace should one ever go bad. So if that's the case, it's probably easiest just to put in a new axle, and it's not going to be the same axle because they don't make this exact one anymore, but for a few $100s you can get an axle that'll work and pretty well fit. So it's not that big of a deal, but I do worry that at some point I'm going to have to do that. So we'll see. That's down the line. I'm pretty happy with how our frame turned out. Not really too many things I'd do differently there. Just some things to think about for the future. Once we were done with the frame, we rebuilt the deck. And some campers are built a little differently. This one had that footwell that was a little bit challenging to figure out, but when you're taking these things apart, if you look really closely at the way they were put together, take very precise measurements, and also indicate, you know, whether this board was nailed into this board through this way, that will really help you a lot in putting it back together. Knowing, well, you know, I'm going to have to screw through here, and if I do that after I've built this, I won't be able to get the driver in there to do it. So, you know, it's wise to plan things out as much as possible at that point. And to do that, I actually built a SketchUp, which I think I can actually share if anybody's got a Playmore and they want a 3D SketchUp model for how we put ours together. I'm not going to guarantee that all of them are like this, and ours also reflects some modifications we made. I'll try to put that link below as well, and you're welcome to use that for whatever knowledge you can glean from it. But yeah, things I would do differently on the decking. You know, one thing I had kind of thought about doing was painting it on the bottom side before I put it in place, and I didn't do that. I sort of wonder if I'll regret it. My other camper, we didn't paint the decking, and it's held up fine for several years, so I'm not too concerned about it. You know, if I was planning on driving in the rain a lot, I might be a little more concerned, but I might still come back and roll on some sort of sealant just to close it up. But I'm pretty happy with it as is, and I think it'll be fine and watertight even for driving in the rain. So once we rebuilt the decking, we moved on to rebuilding the walls. We had, of course, removed the walls as one piece with a lot of the siding still on, so we laid them directly down on the patio, and we rebuilt exactly what was there on top of it and added where we thought we needed to. The thing I would do differently, and I think I already mentioned it, is I would have taken the skin off, and while those walls were still attached to the frame, I would have gone ahead and rebuilt them by attaching the wood directly to what was already there. I think that would have been quicker and more straightforward, and I'm excited to try that again in the future. Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness, look at this trash truck. Show the folks at home. Show them the trash truck. Is there any trash in there?
No.
No. So with the walls rebuilt, it was pretty straightforward to attach them to the frame, just make sure they were square, and then wrapping the ceiling on was a little bit challenging. Actually, I'm going to stop recording this for right now because this is embarrassing. That took a long time. I don't recommend it. Had some mistakes there. I think what I would do in the future, if I had to do it again, I would cut a little more precisely to match what I thought the roof joists were, where the roof joists were going to be. Because what happened a lot is I didn't plan out the curve very well, and I wound up breaking on a spot where the curve put a lot of tension in the panel, and I had to come back and then cut it away from that so I could wrap it around it more. And it was just a lot of, hinky-dinky, fiddling with it to try and get it right. And I think I could have planned that out better. So on these campers that are curved like this, really think through where those ceiling panels are going to break, and try to do it in a way that it's easy for you to bend. I also really had trouble with this back, and part of that was because I didn't carefully make notes of how the original back of the camper was designed, and I put stuff where it wasn't supposed to be, had to take it back out. Yeah, save yourself some time and trouble. So with the walls up and the ceiling on, we were able to do our wiring and our insulation, and for insulation we just did cut styrofoam and fit it into place. My father-in-law Dave did most of that, and I realized after he was all done using his Sonocrafter, cutting everything precisely, that we had a hot knife that probably would have cut that styrofoam much quicker and with a lot less mess, so I would do that differently in the future. As to the wiring, our wiring's pretty simple. I'm pretty happy with it, but it would have been nice to have had my cabinetry planned out a little better so I could have located some of those wires a little more intelligently. Kind of just, like, well, put it there and we'll figure it out. Yeah, if you have a more complicated camper, of course, there's going to be a lot more planning that goes into it. We didn't really need to spend that much time on it, and so we're pretty much done. I mean, we'll see. So we put the skin on the camper next, and we thought at the time that it was a great idea to reuse the skin, but more and more I think if you just replace the skin, and I know it to a lot of people it seems like a big cost, but you save yourself so much time. Like, you don't have to worry about whether it's been previously painted, you don't have to worry about all these dents in it, all these holes in it, and the big thing is you don't have to be so precise on your rebuild if you have new skin for it. With this, we had to make sure that rebuild came to within maybe 1/8 of an inch of the original, so that all the seams and everything would overlap right. And that's pretty precise on something like this that was built originally in a hurry and with pretty modest materials. So there's a lot of places where you can buy new skin. The one that I hear recommended over and over again is Hemet Valley RV, and they are out in California, so you're going to pay some shipping, and it has to be freighted because, I mean, you're talking great big sheets of aluminum, rolled up, of course. But yeah, you're going to pay some shipping on it, but all the time it's going to save you when it comes to putting this back together is, I mean, time is money. So value your time as much as you would anything else you're doing. We put the skins on, and then the next thing we did was we stripped all the paint off of them. And that took a week for 3 of us working on it every day. So we could have had so much more done in that week had we just bought some new skin. And then, of course, it's going to take a little bit of time to put it on, but not near as much. So yeah, speaking of stripping, it took 2 gallons of aircraft stripper to strip the entire camper, and I think it was worth it. It worked really easily. There's other things that are a little less toxic, but I mean, aircraft stripper is super fast, works great. I would do it again. When it came to putting paint back on it, I primed it using rattle cans, which I had done in the past and it worked well, but I have a new sprayer and a new air compressor, and now that I have that, I really think I would go back and I would use the sprayer and air compressor, and I'd just use an oil-based primer and prime it using that. It'd be a lot quicker, probably less expensive. Those rattle cans definitely added up, but it was, and it took a while. It took a while and really wears down your finger. Sometimes when it's hot, it's just hard to get started, So yeah, to do it over again, I would use my sprayer. If you don't have a good sprayer, I would certainly consider getting one. You definitely need an air compressor for a project like this. If you're using a sprayer, at least a 30-gallon, and a decent sprayer. And honestly, those are not that expensive of items to get. You can shop at your local discount hardware store and save some money, especially if you're not using them all the time. If you just got this one project, that would be more than enough. You know, as for the actual paint, we used Bare exterior semi-gloss, oil-based Bare oil-based exterior semi-gloss. There we go. You definitely want to use an oil-based paint on one of these. It's just going to be a lot more durable and a lot better finish. It's a little more to try to clean up, but it's worth it in the long run. The green is actually, we had them match a magnolia paint color called Water Garden, and the pink though was an actual Bare color. It was Angelico. We get asked what those colors are a lot, and there you have it. So the windows, I hate them. I hate them, I hate them, I hate them. Still having trouble with them. Still gonna have to work on them. They are far more complicated than you think. And they're not complicated, but there's a bunch of little things that will bite you in the butt if you're not careful with them. So what would I do differently? I don't know, everything. I wouldn't have any windows in my camper. How about that? The lights, pretty happy with. We just used marker lights that we bought at Ace. They're just basic. That's what was on there before. The tail lights actually cleaned up really nicely. I'm really happy with that, using the rust converter and then spraying them glossy white really worked out well. And I'm surprised at how nice they are. So definitely would do again. Happy I did it. We added a Dometic fan on the roof. Really happy with it, although I don't have all the power worked out inside, but it works nicely. And at some point I'm going to add one in our photo booth little lampy camper, because it is nice, looks good, clean, works great. 10 of 10 would do again. The hatch on the back, I was going to replace it, but buying replacement hatches is awful expensive, so I'm happy that I was able to find a solution where I could reuse that hatch. If I had just replaced all the skin, I would probably just find a hatch that was roughly the same size and just make the opening larger or smaller as it needed to be and use a different hatch. But being able to reuse that one saves some money. Custom hatches are expensive and they take a long time to come in, so definitely worth trying to reuse what you already have. So tips / things to do differently: get a carport. Putting a tarp on this, you know, it might keep rain out, it might not if it leaks, but it will definitely condensate still underneath there. So you're still getting water in there, and if you're covering it with a tarp while you have exposed wood, that wood is going to get wet just from the condensation. And you don't want all your hard work ruined because you got water in there. So get some sort of temporary structure. If you don't have a permanent one you can put this in. That's number one. I'm not doing another one of these sitting out in the open like this. You know, also, like I said, get a good sprayer. A good finish starts with a good sprayer and a good masking job. But definitely sprayer, air compressor. You're going to use that air compressor both on stapler and nailer and a bunch of other things. So make sure and get one that's large enough that you can run a sprayer with so you can do this job as well. So how much did this all cost us to this point? Not including buying it, which I said was $600. We have spent about $2,700 on it so far. Now granted, if I did things like replace the skin and stuff like that, that's going to add some cost to it. But still, buying a new camper is going to cost you so much more than that, and you don't have this neat, cool, vintage looking camper. So, okay, so that's it this week, folks. Make sure and check back next week when we should be doing some work on our interior, maybe getting a bed framed in and making some progress. So remember, new videos come out on Sundays, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I don't know where the buttons are going to be, but don't forget to do that. And have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next weekend.